My stepmom told everyone my real mom abandoned me, so at her birthday party, I read her old emails begging my dad for custody. She went silent. Growing up, I heard the same story on repeat. My mom left when I was 3. She didn't want the responsibility of a child. She chose her career over me. She never called, never visited, never sent birthday cards. It was the story that defined my childhood, the narrative that shaped how I saw myself. My stepmom would say this with tears in her eyes, her hand on her heart, like she was the hero who stepped in to raise another woman's unwanted daughter. I loved you from the moment I met you, she'd tell me, usually in front of an audience, at church gatherings, at school fundraisers, at family reunions. I couldn't understand how any mother could just walk away from something so precious. But her loss was my gain. You became the daughter I'd always dreamed of. People would coo and sigh. What a wonderful woman. What a blessing. How lucky I was to have her. My dad would nod along, his arm around her shoulders, never added details, never contradicted her, just let her tell the story over and over, each time polishing it a little more, adding flourishes. How I'd cried for my mom those first few months, how she'd rocked me to sleep every night, how she'd slowly helped me forget and move on. I believed it for years. Why wouldn't I? I had no memories of my mom from before age 3. No photos in the house. My dad said he'd thrown them all away because it was too painful to look at someone who'd betrayed us. No contact information. Nothing. It was like she'd been erased from my life completely, like she'd never existed at all. When I asked my dad about her when I was younger, he'd get this pained expression, his jaw tightening, and say, "She made her choice. We have to respect that and move on. We have a family now. This is your family." By the time I was 16, I'd accepted it as truth. My mom didn't want me. My stepmom did. That was my reality. I'd stopped asking questions years ago, stopped wondering, stopped hoping that maybe there was more to the story. I'd built my identity around being the daughter who wasn't wanted by her real mom but was chosen by her stepmom. It hurt, but at least it was clear. At least I knew where I stood. My stepmom made sure I knew where I stood. She'd bring it up constantly. "Not like your real mom, I'll actually show up to your choir concert. I'm here for you, unlike some people. You can always count on me," which is more than your biological mother ever gave you. Every reassurance was a reminder. Every declaration of love came with a comparison. She was good. My mom was bad. She stayed. My mom left. Simple as that. Then I was looking for my birth certificate for my driver's license application. I was 16 and a half, finally old enough to start driving. My dad kept important documents in his home office filing cabinet, the one in the corner by the window that he usually kept locked, but had left open that afternoon. I found the birth certificate easily, right in the front of the top drawer in a folder labeled with my name, but behind it was a manila folder I'd never seen before. It was thick, stuffed full of papers. It had my name written on it in my dad's handwriting with the word custody underneath. My heart started racing. I looked over my shoulder toward the door. My dad was at work. My stepmom was at her book club. I was alone in the house. I opened the folder. Inside were emails, dozens of them, all printed out on regular printer paper, dated and organized chronologically, all from my mom. I recognized her email address from my birth certificate, where it was listed as mother's contact information, an email address I'd never been allowed to use. An email address my dad said didn't work anymore because she'd probably changed it. The first email was dated 6 months after she and my dad divorced. I would have been 3.5 years old. "David, please let me see her. I miss her so much. I know you're angry with me for leaving and you have every right to be, but she's my daughter too. She needs her mother. I'm begging you. Let me have the visitation the court ordered. I'll come there. I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't keep her from me." I read it 3 times. My hands were shaking. I flipped to the next email, dated 2 weeks later. "You didn't bring her to the supervised visit yesterday. I waited for 3 hours. The supervisor said you never called to cancel. Please don't do this. I know I hurt you, but don't punish her for my mistakes. She's 4 years old. She needs stability. She needs both her parents." Another from a month later. "I've been calling every week. You never answer. You never return my messages. I sent birthday presents to your address. Did she get them? Please just let me know she's okay. I'm her mother. I have rights." Then court documents, custody filings. My mom had tried to get joint custody after the initial divorce decree gave my dad primary custody with her getting supervised visitation. My dad had fought it, his lawyer filing motions claiming she was unstable, unfit, that she'd abandoned the marriage and therefore couldn't be trusted with a child, that she'd had an affair and was morally unsuitable, that she'd chosen her career over her family. The judge had reviewed the evidence and ruled in my dad's favor, determining that supervised visitation would continue, but joint custody was denied. My mom couldn't afford a better lawyer. The documents showed she'd represented herself for some of the hearings, then a notice of relocation. My dad had moved us from Oregon to Nevada, 3 states away, changed our phone number, filed a motion to modify the custody arrangement due to distance, claiming that supervised visitation wasn't feasible across state lines, and suggesting that my mom could have visitation during summer breaks if she wanted to travel. More emails from my mom, now increasingly desperate. "You moved. You didn't tell me. I showed up for our scheduled visit and the house was empty. The neighbors said you'd moved to Nevada. I don't even know where you are. Please, David, this is cruel. She's my daughter. I found your new address through the court records. It took me 3 months. I've been sending letters. Are you getting them? Are you reading them to her? Please let her know I'm thinking of her, that I love her, that I didn't leave her. I hired a lawyer, but I can't afford to keep fighting across state lines. The cost of traveling for hearings, the legal fees, it's more than I make. but I'm trying. Please don't make me choose between seeing my daughter and paying my rent. Please just let me talk to her on the phone. Just 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I was crying now, sitting on the floor of my dad's office with papers spread around me. My mom hadn't abandoned me. She'd fought for me. She'd begged to see me. And my dad had systematically cut her out of my life. More emails spanning years. When I was 5, I sent Christmas presents again. Did she get them? I picked out books I thought she'd love. Please tell me she got them. When I was 6, I called your parents' house thinking maybe you'd be there for Thanksgiving. Your mother hung up on me. Please, David, she's 6 years old. She'll start forgetting me soon if she hasn't already. Don't let that happen. When I was 7, I don't know if you even read these anymore. I don't know if you've blocked me. But I need you to know I never stopped trying. I never stopped loving her. If she ever asks about me, please tell her that. Please don't let her think I abandoned her. I would never abandon her. You know that. Whatever happened between us, whatever I did wrong, she was never part of that. I love her more than anything. That was the last email in the folder. I was 7 when my mom stopped trying to reach out. Or maybe she'd kept trying and my dad had blocked her email. I didn't know. But that was the last printed one he'd kept. There were other documents too. Birthday cards that had been opened but never given to me. Christmas cards, Valentine's cards, all addressed to me in handwriting I didn't recognize, but that must have been my mom's. Store-bought cards with her signature and little notes. Happy 5th birthday, sweetheart. I love you so much. Mom, Merry Christmas, baby. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday. You're always in my thoughts. Mom, happy 8th birthday. I bet you're so big now. I miss you every day. Love, Mom. She'd never stopped. Not really. She'd sent these cards every year. My dad had just never given them to me. He'd opened them, read them, and filed them away in this folder like evidence for a crime. I took photos of everything on my phone, every email, every court document, every card. My hands were shaking so badly I had to retake several photos because they came out blurry. I must have spent 2 hours in that office, documenting everything, making sure I had proof, because I knew once I confronted my dad about this, he'd try to make the evidence disappear, or he'd lie, or he'd twist it somehow. I needed proof. Then I put the folder back exactly where I'd found it, behind my birth certificate in the filing cabinet. I closed the drawer, left the office, went to my room and lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd just learned. My entire life was a lie. My identity, my understanding of who I was and where I came from. My stepmom wasn't the hero who'd saved me from abandonment. She was complicit in keeping me from a mother who loved me. My dad wasn't the good parent who'd protected me from someone who didn't want me. He was the one who'd actively kept us apart. And I'd believed their story. For 13 years, I'd believed I wasn't wanted by my real mom. I felt sick, angry, devastated, betrayed. All of it at once, churning in my stomach until I thought I might throw up. That night at dinner, I watched them. My dad cutting his steak, talking about his day at work. My stepmom chattering about her upcoming 50th birthday party. She'd been planning it for months. She wanted it to be special, a big celebration at a nice restaurant. She'd invited 40 people, sent out fancy invitations, hired a caterer. It's going to be perfect, she said, smiling at me. I'm so glad we can all celebrate together as a family. You know, there was a time when I didn't think I'd ever have this. A daughter, a husband, a real family. But God works in mysterious ways. She reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm so blessed. I looked at her hand on mine. This woman who'd helped my dad keep me from my mother, who'd built her entire identity around being my savior, who'd told the story of my abandonment so many times it had become her favorite party trick. I've been thinking about your birthday party, I said carefully. Would you want me to say something? Like a speech? Her eyes lit up. Would you? Oh, that would mean so much to me. You could talk about our journey together, how I've been there for you, how we've built this beautiful relationship despite everything. Despite everything. Despite my real mom trying to see me, despite the birthday cards that were hidden in a file cabinet, despite everything my dad and stepmom had done to erase her from my life. Sure, I said. I'd love to say something. My dad looked at me then, his eyes narrowing slightly like he sensed something off in my tone. But my stepmom was too excited to notice. She started planning what I should wear, how she'd introduce me, how meaningful it would be to have me speak. I smiled and nodded and said all the right things. The next 2 weeks were strange. I went to school, did my homework, ate dinner with them every night. I pretended everything was normal while this knowledge burned inside me. I looked at my stepmom differently now. Every time she called me sweetie or honey, every time she hugged me or told me she loved me, I felt my skin crawl. Because I knew the truth now. I knew what she'd helped my dad do. I thought about reaching out to my mom. I still had her email address from the documents. But something stopped me. Fear, maybe. Or anger that she'd given up after 7 years. Or maybe just the overwhelming confusion of not knowing who I was anymore. If the story I'd believed my whole life was a lie. So I waited, and I planned. And I practiced what I was going to say at that birthday party until I had it memorized. The party was on a Saturday evening at an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. My stepmom wore a navy blue dress and pearls. My dad wore a suit. They'd rented a private room at the back of the restaurant with long tables arranged in a U-shape. 40 people. My dad's parents, his brother and sister, my stepmom's parents, her 2 sisters and their families, friends from their church, neighbors, colleagues from my dad's law firm and my stepmom's real estate office, people I'd known my whole life, people who'd heard the story of my abandonment and my stepmom's heroic intervention countless times. I wore the dress my stepmom had picked out for me, a pale pink thing with a white collar that made me look younger than 16. I smiled at everyone, said hello, accepted hugs from relatives I barely knew, played the role of the grateful daughter. Dinner was served, chicken marsala and pasta and salad, wine for the adults, sparkling cider for me and my younger cousins. My stepmom was in her element, holding court, laughing at jokes, accepting compliments on the decorations and the food. After dinner, the speeches started. My dad went first. He stood at the head of the table with his wine glass raised. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate this amazing woman," he said. "When I met her 12 years ago, I was a single father struggling to raise a daughter on my own. I'd been hurt badly by my ex-wife's betrayal. I didn't think I'd ever trust anyone again, but then she came into my life." He looked at my stepmom with what seemed like genuine affection. She didn't just love me. She loved my daughter like her own. She stepped into a difficult situation with grace and commitment. She gave us stability. She gave us a real family. I don't know where we'd be without her. Everyone clapped. My stepmom wiped tears from her eyes. Several people said, "Aw." Then my dad's brother spoke, making jokes about my stepmom's terrible sense of direction and her obsession with HGTV. Her sister told embarrassing stories from their childhood. Her mother cried and said how proud she was. Each speech painted a picture of a wonderful woman, generous, loving, selfless. Then it was my turn. My stepmom introduced me herself. "And now I'd like to hear from someone very special." My daughter wanted to say a few words. I know she's a little shy, but she insisted. She smiled at me encouragingly. "Come on up, sweetheart." I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I forced myself to walk to the front of the room. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Several people chuckled, probably thinking I'd written notes for my speech. "I wanted to share something special for your birthday," I said, looking at my stepmom. "Something that shows who you really are." I opened the photos on my phone, found the first email, started reading it out loud. This is an email from my biological mother to my father, dated August 15th when I was 3 years old. "David, please let me see her. I miss her so much. I know you're angry with me for leaving, and you have every right to be. But she's my daughter too. She needs her mother. I'm begging you. Let me have the visitation the court ordered." The room went completely silent. My stepmom's face went white, then red. My dad half stood from his chair, his hand reaching out like he was going to take the phone from me. I stepped back and kept reading. September 2nd, same year. "You didn't bring her to the supervised visit yesterday. I waited for 3 hours. The supervisor said you never called to cancel. Please don't do this. I know I hurt you, but don't punish her for my mistakes." "Stop," my dad said, his voice low and dangerous. I didn't stop. I read another email, then another. My mom's words, her desperation, her love, the dates spanning years, the unanswered calls, the returned presents, the letters I'd never received. Some people were starting to look uncomfortable. My dad's mother had her hand over her mouth. My stepmom's sister was staring at my stepmom with wide eyes. I scrolled to a different photo. "This is a birthday card my biological mother sent me for my 5th birthday. It was addressed to me. It was never given to me. My father kept it in a file cabinet in his office." I read the message inside. "Happy 5th birthday, sweetheart. I love you so much." "Mom, that's enough," my dad said, standing fully now and moving toward me. "She sent cards every year," I said louder, my voice cracking. "Every birthday, every Christmas. She didn't abandon me. You kept her from me. You moved us to a different state. You changed our number. You told me she didn't want me. You let me believe that for 13 years. I looked at my stepmom, at this woman who'd built her identity around being my savior. "You knew," I said. "You were with my dad when he moved us away, when he changed our number. You helped him keep her from me. And then you told everyone she abandoned me. You told that story over and over. At church, at school, at family gatherings. You made yourself the hero of a story that was a lie. You let me believe I wasn't wanted for 13 years. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I pushed through. Every time you told someone how you'd stepped up to raise another woman's unwanted daughter, you knew it was a lie. Every time you said you couldn't understand how a mother could just walk away, you knew my mother hadn't walked away. She'd been pushed out by my dad. With your help." The room was dead silent. 40 people staring at me, at my stepmom, at my dad. My dad's face was purple with rage. My stepmom was crying, her hands covering her mouth. "I found the emails," I said. "I found the court documents. I found the birthday cards. I know everything. And I needed all of you to know too, because I'm tired of living a lie. I'm tired of pretending to be grateful for being saved from abandonment, when what really happened is, I was stolen from a mother who loved me." I turned to my stepmom. "Happy birthday. I hope it was everything you dreamed of." Then I walked out, left my coat, left my purse. Just walked out of that restaurant into the cold November night and started walking down the street with no idea where I was going. I heard footsteps behind me, turned to see my dad's sister, my Aunt Rachel, hurrying after me with my coat. "Wait," she called. "Please wait." I stopped. She caught up to me, slightly out of breath. She wrapped my coat around my shoulders. "Is it true?" she asked. "All of it?" "Yes. I can show you the photos. I have proof." "Oh, honey." Her eyes filled with tears. "We didn't know. We had no idea. Your father said your mother just left, that she signed away her rights and disappeared. We believed him. She never signed away her rights. She fought for custody. She sent cards and presents. She called. He kept her away from me on purpose." My aunt pulled me into a hug and I broke down crying, really crying. 13 years of grief and confusion and misplaced shame all coming out at once in this woman's arms on a cold sidewalk outside an Italian restaurant. "Come home with me," she said. "You can't go back there tonight. Come stay with me and Uncle Brian. We'll figure this out." I went with her. She lived 20 minutes away. Uncle Brian took one look at me when we arrived and asked no questions, just showed me to their guest room and said I could stay as long as I needed. My phone started ringing immediately. My dad calling over and over, then my stepmom, then my grandparents. I turned it off. The next morning, Aunt Rachel made me breakfast and asked to see the photos. I showed her everything. She sat at her kitchen table reading through email after email, looking at birthday cards, reading court documents. Her face got paler with each one. "I'm going to kill him," she said finally. "My own brother. How could he do this to you? How could he do this to your mother?" "I don't know. He told me she abandoned me. I believed him. Why would I question it? He's my dad." "What do you want to do?" Aunt Rachel asked. "Do you want to try to find your mom?" "I have her email address. From the documents. I don't know if it still works. It's been 9 years since the last email in the folder. We could try." So we did, right there at her kitchen table. I opened my email on my phone and typed in my mom's email address. Subject line, "It's your daughter." I wrote, "My name is Natalie. I'm 16 years old. I don't know if you'll get this or if this email address still works. I don't know if you'll even want to hear from me, but I found the emails you sent my dad. I found the birthday cards. I know you didn't abandon me. I know he kept you away. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't know. I thought you didn't want me. I believed what he told me, but I know the truth now. If you want to talk, I'd like that. I'd like to know you, if it's not too late." I hit send before I could change my mind. The response came 6 hours later. I was sitting in Aunt Rachel's living room when my phone buzzed. My mom's email address in my inbox. Subject line, "My baby girl." I couldn't open it at first. My hands were shaking too badly. Aunt Rachel had to open it for me. "My darling Natalie," it read, "I never stopped loving you. Not for one day, not for one moment. I have thought about you every single day for 13 years. I have wondered what you look like, what you're interested in, what makes you laugh. I have grieved for the childhood I missed. I have hated myself for not fighting harder, for not having more money for lawyers, for not being strong enough to keep trying when your father made it clear he'd never let me see you. But I never stopped loving you, and I never will. If you want to meet, I would love that more than anything in the world. I'm in Portland. I don't know where you are now, but I will come to you, wherever you are, whenever you want. Just tell me when and where, and I'll be there. Your mom." I read it 5 times, then I cried for an hour straight. Aunt Rachel held me and let me sob. "She wants to see me," I kept saying. "She wants to see me." "Of course she does," Aunt Rachel said gently. "She never stopped wanting to see you." My dad showed up at Aunt Rachel's house that evening. I heard him at the door arguing with Uncle Brian, then Aunt Rachel's voice, sharp and angry, telling him to leave. But I went to the door anyway. I needed to face him. "You lied to me," I said when I saw him standing on the porch. "For 13 years, you lied to me." "I protected you," he said. His face was drawn, exhausted. "Your mother left us. She had an affair. She destroyed our marriage. I wasn't going to let her destroy you too. So you destroyed my relationship with her instead? You kept her from me? You told me she didn't want me? She didn't fight hard enough. If she'd really wanted you, she would have found a way. She tried. She went to court. She sent emails. She sent birthday cards. She called. She did everything she could. You blocked her at every turn. You moved us away. You changed our number. You poisoned me against her. And then you let your wife tell everyone she abandoned me. You let me grow up thinking I wasn't wanted by my own mother. I gave you a good life," my dad said. "I gave you stability, a good home, a mother who was actually there. You gave me a lie, and now I know the truth. So what do we do now? You come home. We work through this as a family. I'm not coming home. Not to you. Not to her. Not after what you did. You're 16 years old. You don't have a choice." "She has a choice," Aunt Rachel said, stepping forward. "She can choose to stay here, with family who won't lie to her." My dad's jaw tightened. "You're my daughter. You're coming home." "I'm going to see my mom," I said. "My real mom. She lives in Portland. She wants to meet me. And you can't stop me." "The hell I can't. I have custody. You're a minor." "Then I'll tell the court what you did. I have the emails. I have the court documents. I have evidence that you've been keeping her from me for years. Do you really want to go back to court? Because I'll testify. I'll tell them everything." Something flickered in my dad's eyes. Fear, maybe. Or the realization that he'd finally been caught. "This is a mistake," he said. "You don't know her. She's not who you think she is. And you're not who I thought you were either. So I guess we're even." He left. Aunt Rachel helped me file for emancipation the next week. With the evidence I had and my testimony about what my dad had done, the court granted it on the condition that I had stable housing and could support myself. Aunt Rachel offered to let me live with her until I graduated high school. She and Uncle Brian became my legal guardians. I met my mom 3 weeks later. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Portland. Aunt Rachel drove me there, the 3-hour drive feeling both too long and too short. I was so nervous I thought I might throw up. My hands were sweating. My heart was racing. What if she wasn't what I'd built up in my head? What if 13 years was too long to bridge? What if we had nothing to say to each other? I saw her through the window before I went inside. She was sitting at a table in the corner, nervously checking her phone, looking at the door every few seconds. She looked like me, or I looked like her. Same dark hair, though hers had some gray now. Same nose, same cheekbones, same way of biting her lower lip when anxious. I'd never had photos of her growing up. My dad had destroyed them all. But looking at her now, I could see myself in her face, could see where I came from, could see the genetic echo of my own features in hers. I walked inside. The bell above the door chimed. She looked up. Our eyes met. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. Her hand went to her mouth, her eyes filled with tears. "Natalie?" she whispered, like she couldn't quite believe I was real. I nodded, couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. She started crying then, really crying. "You're so beautiful," she said, her voice breaking. "You're so grown up. You look just like I imagined. But also nothing like I imagined because you're real and you're here and I missed everything." "I'm sorry," I said, the words tumbling out. "I'm sorry I believed him. I'm sorry I thought you abandoned me. I'm sorry I didn't know sooner. I'm sorry for all the years we lost." "You were a baby," she said, shaking her head. "You were a child. You have nothing to be sorry for. This was never your fault. None of it. This was what he did to both of us." She held out her arms, hesitant, asking permission. I stepped forward. She hugged me. And something inside me that had been broken for 13 years started to piece itself back together. Not fixed, not healed, but beginning to mend. We sat down, ordered coffee neither of us touched, and we talked, for hours. She told me about the divorce, how she and my dad had been too young when they got married, barely 21, how they'd grown apart, how she'd made mistakes, had an affair with a coworker during a rough patch in the marriage, how my dad had never forgiven her, how she'd thought they could co-parent despite everything, could still both be in my life, how she'd been blindsided when my dad fought for full custody, how she'd represented herself in court because she couldn't afford a lawyer, how the judge had believed my dad's attorneys over her stammering self-defense. "I thought I had rights," she said. "I thought being your mother meant something, but I learned that custody battles are won by whoever has more money and better lawyers. Your father had both." She told me about the years after, how fighting for custody had bankrupted her, how she'd had to move back in with her parents for a while, how she'd gotten a job as a teacher, which paid terribly but was all she was qualified for, how my dad's lawyers had used that against her, claiming her unstable career made her unfit, how she'd sent the emails and cards, desperate for any connection, how she'd called and been hung up on, how she'd hired another lawyer when I was 6 and lost again, how she'd finally stopped trying when I was 7 because she was out of money and out of hope. "I gave up," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I failed you. I should have kept fighting, but I just couldn't anymore. I was drowning in debt. I was working 2 jobs just to survive. And every lawyer I talked to said the same thing. Your father had full custody. He'd moved you out of state. Unless he agreed to let me see you, there was nothing I could do. And he was never going to agree. You didn't fail me," I said. "He kept you away from me. That's not the same as giving up. I've told myself that for 9 years," she said. "But I never believed it. Until now. Until you found those emails. Until you reached out. I didn't give up. I was defeated. There's a difference." I told her everything too. What my childhood had been like, how my stepmom had told the abandonment story at every opportunity, how she'd made it the centerpiece of her identity, how I'd believed it, how I'd internalized it, how finding the emails had shattered everything I thought I knew about myself, how I'd confronted them at the birthday party, how I'd read the emails out loud in front of 40 people, how I'd walked out and never gone back. "I'm so proud of you," my mom said, reaching across the table to hold my hand, "for being brave enough to tell the truth, for standing up for yourself, for standing up for me. I'm just sorry you had to do it. Sorry you had to carry this burden." "I'm not sorry," I said. "I'm glad I know the truth. I'm glad I found you." "Me too," she whispered. "Me too." We made plans to see each other again the following weekend, and the weekend after that. Slowly, carefully, we started building a relationship. It wasn't easy. There was so much lost time, so many missed moments, so much grief to work through. I'd missed having a mother for 13 years. She'd missed watching me grow up. We were strangers trying to become family, but we tried. And that was more than I'd had for 13 years. My dad tried to contact me several times through Aunt Rachel, leaving voicemails, sending texts, saying he wanted to explain, saying we needed to talk, saying I was throwing away our family over a misunderstanding. I ignored him. There was nothing he could say that would make what he'd done okay. No explanation that would justify 13 years of lies. No apology that could repair the damage. My stepmom sent me a long email 2 months after the party. I almost deleted it without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. It was an apology of sorts. She said she'd been wrong to tell the abandonment story, that she'd gotten caught up in the narrative, that she'd wanted so badly to be important to me, that she'd convinced herself she was saving me, that she'd believed my dad when he said my mom didn't deserve to see me, that she'd never questioned whether the story was true because it made her feel good about herself. But there was no real acknowledgement of what she'd actually done. No admission that she'd helped my dad keep me from my mom. No recognition of the harm she'd caused. Just vague platitudes about mistakes and regret and hoping I could forgive her someday. It read like something written by someone who wanted absolution without actually taking responsibility. I didn't respond. My dad's family, the ones who'd been at that party, mostly reached out to apologize. They'd believed my dad's story. They'd had no reason to question it. But now that they knew the truth, they wanted to make it right. My grandparents on my dad's side called my mom directly and apologized for not fighting harder to help her see me. They'd believed their son. They'd taken his word for it. They'd accepted his version of events without question because why wouldn't they? My mom forgave them. She had a bigger heart than I did. Or maybe just more practice with forgiveness. I was still too angry to forgive anyone. Angry at my dad for lying. Angry at my stepmom for going along with it. Angry at the whole family for never questioning the story. Angry at myself for believing it. Angry at the situation for stealing 13 years I could have had with my mom. But slowly, with weekly therapy sessions and regular visits with my mom, the anger started to fade. Not completely. I don't think I'll ever fully get over it, but enough that I could start to heal. enough that I could imagine a future that wasn't defined by what I'd lost. I finished high school living with Aunt Rachel and Uncle Brian. My mom came to every school event she could, every parent-teacher conference, every choir concert, every volleyball game, making up for lost time in whatever small ways she could. My dad was at my graduation. We didn't speak. My stepmom didn't come. After graduation, I moved to Portland to be closer to my mom, started community college, got a part-time job at a bookstore, started building the life I should have had all along. My mom and I had dinner together twice a week. She came to my college events. We went shopping together. We watched movies and talked for hours, and slowly built the mother-daughter relationship we should have had from the beginning. I keep waiting for it to feel strange, I told her once. Maybe 6 months after we'd reconnected. We were making dinner together in her apartment, chopping vegetables while music played in the background. For it to feel awkward or forced, but it doesn't. It just feels right. Because it is right, she said simply. You were always supposed to be here. We were always supposed to be together. We just took the long way around. One night, maybe a year after we'd reconnected, my mom showed me a box she'd kept in her closet. Inside were letters, hundreds of them. Some addressed to me but never sent. Some just journal entries about what she was feeling. Some describing things she wanted to tell me, memories from when I was a baby, stories I'd never heard. I want you to have these, she said, handing me the box. I wrote them for you, even when I didn't think you'd ever read them, even when I thought I'd never see you again. I needed you to know somehow that I never forgot you. I spent an entire weekend reading through them, my mom's love on every page, her grief, her hope, her refusal to stop believing that someday, somehow, we'd find our way back to each other. Did you ever think about giving up completely? I asked her after I'd read them all. We were sitting on her couch, the box of letters between us. Did you ever think about trying to move on? To have another family? Every day, she admitted. Every single day it hurt too much to keep hoping. People told me I should move on, date again, have another child, build a new life, but I couldn't let go of you. You were my daughter. You are my daughter. And I knew that even if you never remembered me, even if you never wanted to see me again, I'd still love you. That was never going to change. I wish I'd known, I said. I wish I'd known you were out there thinking about me, missing me, loving me. You know now, she said, putting her arm around me. That's what matters. You know now. 2 years after that birthday party, I saw my dad again. It was accidental. I was at a restaurant with my mom and some of her friends when he walked in with my stepmom. We made eye contact across the room. He looked older, tired. His hair had more gray in it. The lines on his face were deeper. He started to walk over. My mom tensed beside me, but I shook my head at him. A small, firm shake. A clear message, don't. He stopped mid-step, looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once and turned to walk to a different section of the restaurant. Are you okay? My mom asked quietly. Yeah, I said, and I was. Seeing him didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It just felt empty, like looking at a stranger who used to be important but wasn't anymore. Do you think you'll ever forgive him? My mom asked gently. I don't know. Maybe someday, but not today. Today, I'm just grateful I found you. I'm grateful too, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Every single day. Now I'm 25. I graduated from college with a degree in social work. I have a job helping families navigate the foster care system and custody disputes. I help mothers who can't afford lawyers. I advocate for children caught in the middle of parental conflicts. I do the work I wish someone had done for me and my mom. I still live close to my mom. We talk every day, see each other several times a week. She knows everything about my life now. My friends, my job, my relationship with a guy I met through work who makes me laugh. All the things she missed for 13 years, she knows now. I still carry the effects of what my dad did. I have trust issues. I struggle with believing people when they tell me they love me. I second-guess my memories, wondering what else I believed that wasn't true. Therapy helps. So does having my mom back in my life, but the scars are still there. My dad has reached out a few times over the years, always through intermediaries, Aunt Rachel, my grandparents. Once, surprisingly, through Uncle Brian. He says he's sorry, that he made mistakes, that he let his anger at my mom cloud his judgment, that he was trying to protect me. All the same excuses he's been making since I was 16. I haven't responded. Maybe someday I will. But right now, I'm focused on the relationship I have, not the one I lost. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I confronted my dad and stepmom, if I wish I'd handled it differently, if I think public humiliation was too harsh, if maybe I should have talked to them privately first. I tell them no, because they'd built their whole life on a lie. My stepmom had made herself the hero of a story that was never true. She'd told that story to dozens of people over the years. She'd made my supposed abandonment her defining characteristic as a mother. She'd used my pain to make herself look good, and she'd done it knowing it was a lie. So yeah, I exposed the truth publicly, to the same people she'd lied to for years. Was it harsh? Maybe. But it was also justice. It was taking back the narrative. It was refusing to let them keep lying about who I was and where I came from. It was standing up and saying, this is the truth, and everyone deserves to know it. My mom says I'm braver than she ever was. That standing up in front of all those people and reading those emails took courage. She's not sure she would have had at 16. But I don't feel brave. I just feel like a daughter who found her mother after 13 years of being told she wasn't wanted. A daughter who learned that the story she'd been told her whole life was a lie. A daughter who decided she'd rather live with uncomfortable truth than comfortable lies. Last week was my mom's birthday. Not a big milestone, just another year. But I threw her a small party anyway. Just us, Aunt Rachel and Uncle Brian, a few of my mom's close friends. We had cake and told stories and laughed until our sides hurt. "Make a wish," I said when she was about to blow out the candles. "I don't need to," she said, looking at me with tears in her eyes. "I already have everything I ever wished for. I have my daughter back." And standing there in her apartment, surrounded by people who loved us, I realized I had everything I'd been missing too. I had my mother, the one who'd fought for me even when it seemed hopeless. The one who'd never stopped loving me. The one who'd written me hundreds of letters I'd never received just so someday I'd know she'd never forgotten me. My stepmom built her identity on being the woman who saved me from abandonment. But the truth is, my mom saved me by never giving up, by keeping all those letters and emails, by loving me even when she couldn't see me, by being there the moment I reached out. That's what a real mother does. Not the one who tells stories to make herself look good, but the one who fights for her daughter even when the system is rigged against her. Even when everyone tells her to give up. Even when it takes 13 years and a confrontation at a birthday party to finally bring you back together. That's my mom, and I'm never letting her go again.